Pnawn Thar and a very warm welcome to the Stoke Kairos. Wrexham back in Sky Bet Championship action this afternoon against Stoke City. The nearest thing that Wrexham have to a local derby this season. Stoke making the short 1 hour journey from the Midlands to square up to a Wrexham team who have 4 games left of a regular season. Will they have enough to propel themselves into the playoffs which follow? Well, I'm delighted to say, to start answering that question this afternoon, Phil Parkinson, the Wrexham manager, is alongside me. Phil, good to see you back on home territory. We'll start off with your team today. 4 alterations from you. Let's start in goal with a return for Danny Ward for the first time since August.
Yeah, just felt that the time was right. Arthur's played a lot of football, and sometimes mentally it's the right time to come out the team. And Wardy's been training well, and he's ready to impact today.
It must have been quite a tough decision for you to take, with Danny having had such a long gap since starting previously. Was that what you had to weigh up against the freshness of Arthur?
Yeah. I mean, listen, they're both good goalkeepers, and Callum's superb goalie as well. But sometimes you've just got to make decisions on a kind of feel on the training ground, and I just feel Wardy is ready to take his place today.
Dom Hyam returns to the side. Max Cleworth dropping to the bench. Is that also around freshness, Phil, that thinking?
Yeah, I just think with Maxi as well, he's played nearly every minute of recent run of games, and I just felt the time was right for Maxi to come out like we did over the Christmas period. And Dom, likewise, I think everybody saw after the international break and going away with Scotland and Southampton, we felt that we needed to take him out, but he's come in this week and looked fresh again.
And up top, Josh Windass and Sam Smith returning, Lewis O'Brien and Kiefer Moore to the bench. What's the thinking there?
Yeah, just felt we need Sam's ability to stretch the pitch. I think that's key, where we've got to look at impacting the back line more than we did last week. We know that. And Sam naturally makes those runs in behind. Think of the Chelsea goal and lots of moments we've had this season with him. And he needs the right players around him to provide those types of passes. So yeah, that was the decision there. And obviously Josh, comes into the team, and he's done great for us.
In your press conference this week, Phil, you talked about looking back at some of the better performances earlier this season and trying to get back to some of those traits in the game. Yeah. So getting forward quickly, passing quickly, moving quickly. How do you try and train that to get that response today? Yeah,
it's some of the video work, but some of it's on the training ground. I think it's just, we're at our best when we're on the front foot. We've got energy in the team to press teams, but we're mixing the game up. And we've always spoke about that. Today's an important one for us to get control in the middle of the pitch with Rathbone, Dobson and Matty James, and obviously Windass in that kind of pocket. But equally make sure we're not playing in front of Stoke too much as well, and we've got runners in behind, and we're looking to really impact, like I said, the back line. And I think when we've been at our best, you've seen that balance in our game, and that's what we've been speaking to the lads about today. Control, but also one eye on making forward runs and forward passes, and we've got to make Stoke defend today. We've got to put them under pressure, and that's the aim. And all our supporters know over the last 5 years, we're at our best when we're a forward running, forward moving, forward passing team, and we want to get back to that today.
Phil, thanks very much for joining us. All the very best for the game. Wrexham manager Phil Parkinson ahead of this afternoon's match against Stoke City, talking through his 4 changes today as the rain falls once again. It really is every season in one day here. Andy Morell and Mia Roberts, we've kind of hedged our bets here. Andy's gone for coat, I've gone for no coat, Mia's gone for hoodie and brolly. We're just about coping between the sun and the rain. Good to see you both.
And you.
And here we go then. 4 matches till the end, Andy. 2 fairly un-Wrexham-like performances, I think it's fair to say, in the last couple of outings. But a victory today against a team who've lost their last 5 on the road, and suddenly it could get interesting again.
Yeah, we've just got to keep it interesting for as long as we can now for the rest of the season. Hang in there, hang on the coattails. You just never know what might happen. Yes, we've been disappointed with last week, especially the Birmingham one where we never really got going. We just didn't lay a glove on them. But this time we've got a chance to put that right, and I really like hearing what Phil said. I used to do it when I went through a barren patch with scoring goals. I used to watch back some of the goals I'd scored in my career just to refresh your memory and positively reinforce you can do it, and I think that's where he's gone with that this week.
And Mia, if we look ahead to this afternoon, Stoke City arriving here in fairly awful away form. Their main two centre-backs both unavailable through a suspension and through an injury. You'd say on paper this is about as good an opportunity as Wrexham could have at home.
I think so, but at the same time, you pick out that they are down to the bare bones, but those principles that have made Stoke so good defensively this season, especially away from home, they still remain. They're bringing in players who have great experience. I mean, one biggest being Aaron Creswell, someone who's had a real illustrious career at the top level in the Premier League. So he's coming in. He'll demand exactly what usually Ben Gibson and Ashley Phillips do. But yes, they are weakened, and you just got to hope that Wrexham can take full accountability of that today.
Let's have a look then at the Wrexham team named by Phil Parkinson this afternoon, because he makes 4 changes from the 11 deployed at Birmingham City on Sunday. Danny Ward returns in goal. That's perhaps the biggest talking point since last August. Danny Ward has had to be content with a place either on the bench or in his early months after that game against Millwall, of course, recovering from injury, but he gets his chance today. Big call from Phil Parkinson, that one. And Dan Scarr retains his place in the back three. So Dom Hyam returns for Max Cleworth. It might be that Scarr is the most centrally deployed of those 3 centre-backs, but Hyam, Scarr and Doyle will be the back 3. Kabori and Thomason again provide width in midfield, with Dobson and Matty James in the middle of the park. Rathbone and Windass are the chosen number 10s to play off Sam Smith. It's an attacking bench, as has often been the case since the transfer window. Keeler Dunn, Broadhead, Cadamarteri and Moore all providing attacking options alongside Arthur Okonkwo to cover the goalkeeping position. Max Cleworth, Lewis Brunt and Ryan Longman and Lewis O'Brien. So 4 changes from Phil Parkinson. Andy, you know Danny Ward well from his long and illustrious career. Yeah. How does he go about mentally preparing for this one today? Because he hasn't played in goal as a starter for 7.5 months.
He just calls on all of his experience. I think that's where he goes with it. What he has maybe over Arthur is just the talking and the communication that he'll bring to that back line, and I'm sure that'll be something that he's seen Phil in training and with him around the place in these last few weeks when he's been fit and back training fully. And that making a decision that big as well sort of is a big reset for the group, making a huge call like that, because I don't think Arthur's done a great deal wrong. Maybe one of the goals he got under it on the weekend.
The second at Birmingham.
Yeah, but I wouldn't say he's made a really big howlers or anything. But sometimes a big decision like that, it's a shock factor to the squad that if I'm not at it, I've got to go. I've got to go again to keep my place, and I think that's where he's gone with that. And Dom Hyam coming back in, I think it's been one of those they could have left either out last week and vice versa, just to give them a week of just freshness, really.
And Mia, defensively, we've seen this defensive lineup of Okonkwo, Cleworth, Hyam, Doyle for weeks and weeks. Part of this will be about freshness, of course, and Phil spoke of that at the top of the show, but there's also an element here about understanding of movement, of space and communication. How do you think they will try and minimise the risk that players who've not been playing regular football together don't have those moments in the game today where there's misunderstandings or a lack of cohesion?
Well, similar to what Andy says, I think it comes from that experience. Danny Ward is a player who's, played a number of games at the high level, like we've said, and, he knows what he's coming into. He's trained with these boys. He knows them very well. Obviously started off the season, maybe not necessarily alongside the likes of Dom Hyam, but, starting there was Phil Parkinson's number 1 really at the start of the championship. So I expect that from him, and he's the one who leads that. And obviously someone like Dom Hyam in that backline as well, alongside someone like Dan Scarr. Again, it increases that numbers of games played, level of experience, and you've just then got really Callum Doyle, who still a young man at 22, but has been about in the championship also. So wherever you look really across that backline, you have high standards, and it's different from Phil Parkinson that he's has changed it up, because that's been an area of the pitch where we've just seen pure consistency in terms of that rotation, but not surprising. I think now if they do well today, I think this could be the sort of 3 or 4, if you count in Danny Ward as well, that we see over the sort of running.
Let's have a reminder then of where the league table sits going into this afternoon's game, because there's 4 matches left for Wrexham this season, and at this point in time they still remain very much in the playoff picture. It might be a little bit of a tougher road to take than it looked a few weeks ago, but Wrexham still involved here. Now you'll see that Wrexham have slipped from 7th to the 8th. This is a live table because Derby County are currently beating Oxford United. That hasn't yet reached full time, but if Derby hold on and beat Oxford, then Wrexham will start this afternoon's game in 8th place. You'll see a gap there to Hull City in the last playoff place of 4 points. That is the gap that Wrexham have got to try and bridge over the next 4 games. 4 wins from here, will it be enough? Well, it might well be if Hull drop points themselves, but it is out of Wrexham's hands in terms of the points potential. We'll look at that in a bit more detail a little later in our pre-match show. Let's have a look at the bottom of the table of the Sky Bet Championship as we start today's games, because Stoke City are a team who started the season really strongly, but you'll see them there in 16th place. It is, though, a super congested middle region of the table, 9th to 17th separated by just 4 points. So a strong finish from Mark Robbins' side, and they might end up with their first top half finish since they were relegated from the Premier League 8 seasons ago. But 16th tends to be the kind of place that Stoke have hovered for most of those past few years. Andy, just looking at the championship results since we were last on air for Matchday Live, we've said it so many times this season, haven't we? But Portsmouth going to Middlesbrough and winning with a last-minute goal, then beating Ipswich in midweek, who looked odds on at that stage to take second, and this afternoon at the moment looking like they're going to beat Leicester. Suddenly they're looking safe as houses. Yeah, well, it comes from nowhere, doesn't it? You need one moment to get you going, and I think that moment away at Middlesbrough in the 97th minute, yeah, just gives you a huge lift going into the next one. It's a bit more of a freer hit against Ipswich, and you go and batter them, and then you're going against your closest rivals in my Leicester, and it looks like they're going to do the job, and Leicester look doomed, to be fair, today. So yeah, fantastic for Portsmouth, fantastic that they've been able to put this little run together at a really important time. Well, this afternoon, Stoke City will certainly bring that threat here at the Stoke Kairas. They've got players who can hurt Wrexham, as have every team in this league. And as we look ahead to this afternoon's game, it's the chance to do our usual head-to-head examination. And today for Stoke City, then it's Sorba Thomas who we have highlighted. The Welsh international wide man starts for Mark Robbins' team, and we want to have a little look at him against Isa Kabore, because Kabore, also operating wide, will be a player who Phil Parkinson seeks to get on the ball and get involved early in today's game. You can see on screen there, Thomas has had many more minutes than Kabore this season, perhaps reflecting almost double the number of assists that he has created, generally creating a couple of chances per 90, the Welsh winger. Kabore nearer the 1 chance per 90 ratio. And Mia, we've got the chance to have a look at a bit of Sorba Thomas now, and a player that you've watched plenty of for Wales. What sort of threat will Wrexham need to be aware of from him today?
Yeah, I think he is the bright spark. Obviously, he was the difference maker in that reverse fixture at the Bet365, and something he does, and you've seen obviously in a Stoke shirt, but also a number of people in here will have seen in a Wales shirt, he's not afraid at all to get that ball into the box, and more often than not, those balls are real quality balls in, and it causes so many problems for defenders, whether there's even at times actually a striker in there just because they know they've got to deal with it. You know, he's so good at finding that gap between goalkeeper and that back line, just in that bit of danger area. Saw that, you know, highlighted really clearly in the Wales qualifier against Bosnia, where as soon as he came off the bench, you knew exactly what he was going to do, and he did that. And you know, that night I just felt like Wales were missing a Kiefer Moore to be in that box, really. Yeah. But you know, today I've got him written down at the moment to be starting right back, because I think that's where he's going to actually have to be put at the moment. But you know, again, we've seen him in that position before, obviously wing back a lot under Craig Bellamy on the Wales camps. So you know, I have no sort of doubt in my mind that he'll still be trying to get up there into those forward positions, and you know, trying to get those balls into the box, which today the likes of George Thomason and Callum Doyle are going to have to make sure that they try and stop. And Andy, is a Kabore a player who at his best has got the crowd off their feet this season, hasn't he, here at the Stoke Kairas? He's a player with energy and power. The last couple of games perhaps haven't been his best, but 6 assists this season, as we saw on that graphic, and we can be reminded of those now. On a good day, he's a real threat for Wrexham, but is consistency his biggest challenge, do you think?
Yeah, I believe so. I thought he came into the team right at the start of the season and he was a breath of fresh air. You know, you think of Norwich away, don't you? The first one springs to mind. It was just so good. He was just electric. And he, like you say, he got people off his seat here. I think the injury's not helped him in that mid-season. It's just put the brakes on him. Then he's gone away for the AFCON as well at sort of similar time. And he's just not found his feet since he's come back, really. I think he's best when he's at full intensity and like fully engaged and focused in going straight for the fullback that he's playing up against and just be really positive. And I've seen patches of it, but not enough. And that means he's running back as well as forwards as well. And so if he can get that back, just a little bit of that, then I think, and we get him early in the game, I think he looks a real threat.
So that's a key matchup today. Sorba Thomas against Isaac Kabori, though, as Mia says, where Sorba Thomas will play for Stoke this afternoon will be intriguing to see. Stoke desperately short of centre-backs with suspension to Ashley Phillips and Ben Gibson out injured. So Thomas may have to play in that position as Mark Robins shuffles his pack. Let's have a look then at Robins against Phil Parkinson as we see the two men squaring up to each other on the benches this afternoon. Two men with huge experience managing in the EFL who played in similar eras themselves. Robins as a striker, of course, most famously with Manchester United, often credited with saving Alex Ferguson's job early in the Scotsman's tenure at Old Trafford with a crucial goal in an FA Cup tie. But Robins has gone on to manage, as you can see on screen, 850 games, a lot of those, of course, for Coventry City. Congratulations to them, promoted to the Premier League last night, and his win percentage slightly behind Phil Parkinson's at just under 40%. Now, the two have met on 9 occasions in the dugout, and of all those times that they have come up against one another, then one match perhaps stands out above the others, because when Wrexham was still a National League side back in January 2023, they travelled to the Ricoh Stadium and Mark Robins was in charge of Coventry City that day. Wrexham running out 4-3 winners. We can be reminded of those goals now. And Andy, when people look back at the last 5 years at this club and think of their favourite moments, Boreham Wood's normally somewhere high on that chart, but this one isn't too far behind it. You were there that day. What were your recollections?
Huge following. First and foremost was the away end was incredible.
Packed behind that goal.
It was amazing. The noise that they made, but also the Coventry fans as well. They left out Gyökeres and Hamer out the starting lineup to give others minutes, if you like, against the National League team, but we just really took the game to them really early on, and they couldn't really live with us. They weren't really awake for that, and we got ahead in the game, and then it was just hanging in there right at the end, when even with a couple of goals still in the lead, and we managed to somehow get over the line. And the feeling at the end with the players and the fans, that connectivity between the two, it just got even stronger than it ever was.
A proper FA Cup day, Mia, that one, wasn't it?
I think so, yeah. Again, another really good example of, these cup days, and, we obviously love the league, and that's what most of the time it is all about, but those are the memories you remember. Those are the games, the extra sort of special ones. They've got something about it. There's that extra feel to it, and yeah, I remember watching it, and, I think I saw something earlier in the week about, Phil Parkinson's selection. I think that night, I think he brought a few in that hadn't actually been playing.
Reece Hall Johnson played,
there are
and
a few
Sam
sort
Dolby.
of question marks, and, I mean, look what they went on to do.
It was a great night in the Midlands that day back in January 23. But of course, Robins and Parkinson have squared up on many times in their managerial lives before that. And of course, earlier this season, Stoke City coming out on top by a 1-0 at the Bet365. Let's not forget that one earlier this year, a performance where Wrexham struggled to really find top gear. And Parkinson and Robins also coming up against each other when Parkinson was manager at Sunderland a few years ago. Well, last Sunday, Wrexham headed off to face one of their modern-day adversaries. Birmingham City have been a team against whom we've had a few big battles over the last couple of years. Wrexham enjoying a better season than the Blues at the moment, and they arrived in the Midlands keen to put right that disappointing home defeat to Southampton. But in the end, it proved another difficult trip to St Andrews. Let's have a reminder of how Wrexham suffered back-to-back defeats.
And a chance for the cross is stood to the far post. Osman's underneath it, heads it towards goal. Kabori got in his way. I'd have Beadle on the halfway line rather than the edges area where he is. It's swept in, and Priska heads towards goal. Birmingham just moving it around, trying to probe. Big dag now from Owata, not a bad idea. Well, one in the air by Wagner and volleyed just over. It was a decent contact by Osman. Matty James unlucky, he seemed to bring it down well, but he's dispossessed, and an instant ball by Stansfield is a great idea. Osman, left-hand side, hits the goal line, Cleworth comes to him. Osman likes running down the line, feeds it in the goal mouth, ricochets out, and Okonkwo responds. And fine Kabore on the right, Moore's gone beyond him. Kabore, brilliant change of feet, and a good ball to the edge. Ollie Rathbone has got support, finds Moore. Oh, just off balance, couldn't take it in his stride. Doyle, told to shoot, does shoot, puts it high over the bar. Wrexham scrapping, Dobson trying to win it back. Good foot in by Cleworth. Was he clipped? Ref says not. And it's knocked over the top, and this is dangerous. Doyle reacts slowly. Big chance. Huge save by Okonkwo. Rather scuffs a nice little pass inside to Owata and gets away with it. Return by Priska, overhit, but Pike keeps the ball moving. Left-hand side, early cross from Wagner, too high, and it's in! That's a hell of a header. It wasn't aiming at Vicente, but he managed to get his head on it, 15 yards out, and Okonkwo diving to his left, couldn't clear it out, and, well, the truth is we barely had the ball. Pike on his right foot, nice measured ball. Priska's turn on the corner, ricochets off Doyle, play goes down and it's ripped over the bar by Stansfield. Needs to do something to shift the momentum. Corner swept into the near post, dangerously. It's 2-0. Oh, it's a poor goal to concede. It was played in, carried to the far, and Clara has got a man touch tight on him, but sticks his foot around him. Is it Cleworth? And just pops it into an open goal from about 3 yards out. And these are two poor goals that Wrexham have conceded here. They've got to be very frustrated with that. Gives it away, but it's not the best layoff by Broadhead, and Priska now is surging through the middle. Osman wants it. Osman gets it left side the box, running at Cleworth, cuts it inside. Crucial chance by Kabore, and Doyle has to be quick to put it behind for a corner as Vicente was lurking. And time is surely up now. Wrexham had the results go beautifully for us yesterday, but today has not gone well for us. There is the final whistle as Chris Davis, the Birmingham manager, blows a kiss to the crowd. They hadn't won for a while. They'd lost their last three, but they're most certainly deserving winners here as Wrexham look to tighten up after conceding 5 on Tuesday.
A disappointing afternoon then in the Midlands as Wrexham suffer defeat at the hands of Birmingham City. Not what the doctor ordered, as Wrexham struggled to really pose an attacking threat. So that left it with 4 games to play then until the end of the season. Let's have a look at the run-in for Wrexham, for Derby and for Hull City, because realistically these 3 clubs are competing for one place in the Sky Bet Championship playoffs. Now let's start with Derby, because the breaking news is that they have beaten Oxford United today by 2-0. So Derby take 3 points. That's a big win for them. Wrexham against Stoke, of course, is a 3 o'clock kickoff. Hull against Birmingham equally. So we will know by full time tonight. We will have 9 points left to play for each of these 3 sides. But if we look at it, Hull City start in the bottom seat, 68 points, so they can potentially get up to 80. Wrexham 4 behind, and Derby County now up to 66 points, so they're just 2 behind Hull, having played an extra game. Hull's run-in Birmingham today at home, then trips to Leicester, who were beaten today by Portsmouth and look doomed for relegation to League One. Charlton and finishing at home to Norwich. Wrexham, of course, we know have got Stoke at home today, a trip to Oxford on Tuesday night, then it's Coventry away next weekend, and finishing with promotion challenging Middlesbrough, who may still be in the reckoning for automatic promotion on that final day, or may have just secured a place in the playoffs and have little to play for. Derby finishing with Norwich away, QPR away, who were beaten by Millwall a short time ago, so Alex Neil's side consolidating their place in the top 6 and potentially still not out of the running to finish second. And Derby finishing with Sheffield United at home. Mia, when you look at those run-ins, what stands out for you?
Well, the Oxford one is the one for a while I've sort of been looking at, thinking for us and Derby, that a really difficult game. Obviously Derby have overcome them today, but that's the one on Tuesday I'm looking at thinking, that to me is much tougher than probably Coventry and Middlesbrough. Obviously Coventry will be thinking that's the day they're obviously hopefully getting the trophy in their case, but I think Middlesbrough are probably just out of that automatic race at the moment. I just think Southampton are by far and away the ones chasing Ipswich. They've got the momentum, but it's an interesting one, isn't it? I think you would have thought Hull would have gotten 3 points last week against the Sheffield United team who aren't really playing for much. You can say the same about us last week at Birmingham as well. So you just don't know. Some of these teams that you say quite easily you should be on the beach or are on the beach. They still want to turn up. There are still things they want to play for. Birmingham's a really good example with someone like Chris Davis at the wheel currently, who is probably playing for his future next season.
Sorry, Chris, I'm looking at Norwich there, and they could do us a real big favour because they've got both of those teams around us, and they could help us out. They're one of the informed teams at the moment as well, so I think they could help us overcome what we're looking at as being a huge challenge now to get in there. But I think all the teams at the top, apart from the games that have gone on this morning, we're all having this performance anxiety, aren't we? Millwall had only won 1 in 5, Hull the same. I think Middlesbrough haven't won in 6. We're all struggling to get over that line or get into that pack. So it's just one moment. Can we have that moment today that gets us going and we maybe win 3 out of the last 4 and it's just enough to get us in there?
You talk about performance anxiety, Andy, but I just wanted to pick up on Mia's point about Southampton, because if they do this and finish second, this must set all sorts of records for the longest distance travelled upper league table to win automatic promotion. But at this point, with Ipswich still to play them, they've got every chance.
Well, yeah, and I think I was on Matchday Live earlier in the season saying that they're the ones to watch now. Now, when they made the change of Will Still and they went on a 3-game winning run, they did have a little patch in the middle, didn't they? But they have gone absolute flying up this table, and I think they're definitely looking at that automatic spot, and that Ipswich Southampton game is going to be huge, isn't it? It's going to be amazing to watch that and see hopefully both teams going full at it to get that last automatic spot.
And Southampton, of course, with an FA Cup semi-final as well to look forward to against Pep Guardiola's Manchester City next weekend. So what an end to the season it will be for the Saints. I'm going to let Andy and Mia step out for a moment now because we're going to change it round in the Matchday Live studio. We've got a chance to bring a Stoke City perspective into the conversation because I'm delighted to welcome Angela Smith to Matchday Live. Stoke City, born and bred, but with a fascinating life story which includes an incredible twist at Wrexham. Angela, thank you so much for joining us this afternoon.
It's my pleasure.
It's lovely to see you here. Now, Angela, first of all, let's explain a little bit about your own sporting career, because you were the former world #1 women's squash player in the late 1970s. Top of your game in that particular sport, and that led you to some great things in the sport which we can see on screen now. Just tell us a little bit about what was it like to achieve such success at a time when I'm guessing funding for women's sport, particularly a sport like that in Great Britain, was pretty minimal.
Yeah, listen, it was difficult, and like every woman that's played sport in the 70s, 60s and beyond that, it was tough. And to a certain extent, women's football is still finding its feet, not allowed to play for 50 odd years, and I must say I'm delighted that Wrexham Football Club have helped their women to the extent that they have, and congratulations to them for winning the league. So women's sport's got a lot of catching up to do, but they'll get there.
And Angela, after your decorated career as a squash player, you retired and you joined Hi-Tech, the sportswear manufacturer. And I understand that one day when you were working for Hi-Tech in the mid-80s, a guy called Tony Rance, who was the club secretary at Wrexham, got in touch with you. Take up the story.
Yeah, Tony sent a letter and asked if I would speak to him by phone, which I did. And Wrexham weren't as successful as they are now back then. They were struggling for a sponsorship. They'd won the Cup and were in the Intercities Fairs Cup, I think it was called then. And we offered to sponsor them. I obviously worn Hi-Tech shoes, and I got the owner of the company to see the value in sponsoring Wrexham, and I was very lucky to accompany the team to Malta where they got through, and then on a very exciting time to Spain where Wrexham unfortunately went out on away goals. And it's one of the proudest moments of my career to sit on the bench and realise that these people can play football. It was just brilliant.
So let's just wind this back a bit then. Tony Rance gets in touch with you at Hi-Tech and says if he got any kit, you're able to help with that. But how did that then mean that you were on the bench for the European Cup Winners' Cup tie against Real Zaragoza, sitting next to Dixie McNeil?
Well, I'm a good talker, but I could speak Spanish, and Dixie,
Right.
being ever the professional, wanted to know what was being said, so I was able to translate.
So having supplied the club with kit from High Tech, presumably for nothing,
Yeah.
at a time when, as was many times in Wrexham's past, the club had very little money, you ended up on the bench in Zaragoza translating for Dixie during the game.
Yeah, during the game, it was probably one of the best sporting experiences of my life. And look, I have to say that being involved with Wrexham at that time was great, because as you are now, you're a very hospitable club, and it's great to be back.
And you're back here today, Angela, very much with your Stoke City hat on. You're still heavily involved at Stoke with BBC Radio Stoke and also in the written media as well. Give us a bit of an insight into Stoke City's season and how they might play today.
Well, we have no defence today, which probably everybody knows. It's been a sort of series of accidents happening to Stoke since November, December, where every invaluable player for the football team's got injured at the same time. And I know you need the points, and without wishing to cast aspersions on the lads playing for Stoke today, you should beat us quite comfortably today, because we have no back four. But having said that, they'll all go out and put a shift in, and I'm looking forward to seeing the match again.
Now, Angela, I think it's 8 years since Stoke dropped out of the Premier League, but they haven't managed to finish in the top half in any season. Having followed Stoke through that time, and obviously long before it, what do you put that down to?
Poor recruitment. I think this league has to be, well, everybody knows it's the toughest league in the world to get out of. And Stoke haven't recruited suitably in terms of championship-ready players. You'll see today there's a lot of players that are from overseas or are just learning their way in this league. And it's tough. And you look at the teams who are now fighting for promotion, and they're, I would say, championship-ready more than Stoke are.
And from a fan's perspective, has there been a loss of patience with the club, that there's been this kind of treading water in the Championship, or is there a realisation of the finances that are required if you really want to challenge at the top of the table?
It's a bit of both. Fans are getting fed up now after 8 years of being in the bottom half of the Championship. We have billionaire owner who, because of financial fair play or sustainability, whatever they call it now, can't invest the money that he wants to in the football club. Then on the other hand, you see teams like poor old Sheffield Wednesday, who have had investment from people that, let's say, aren't as scrupulous as they should be, and they've suffered the consequences. So you're lucky with your owners, we're lucky with ours, and I just wish Wrexham all the best.
Well, Angela, thank you very much indeed. It's lovely to see you back here today at the racecourse. I saw you in the press room earlier, and you had the chance to catch up with Barry Horn, who's here today on BBC Radio Wales duty, and who would have been with you in Zaragoza, of course.
Yeah, he was. He played very well. He was trying to tell me about which were his favourite restaurants in Wrexham. Understandably, they're all his. And it was just great to catch up with him
No vested
again.
interest there, then?
No, not at all.
Well, Angela, enjoy your trip today. Thank you for your honesty about Stoke's prospects. We'll see if that comes out in reality come 3 o'clock. And congratulations again on an incredible squash playing career back in the late 70s. And thank you for the free kit in 1986.
My pleasure, and I just wish Wrexham all the best for the future.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Angela Smith, former world #1 squash player, donator of kit to Wrexham, translator, member of Dixie McNeil's backroom team when they played Real Zaragoza in the European Cup Winners' Cup back in 1986. If you don't know how all that played out, well, in the end, Zaragoza prevailed on the away goals rule after Wrexham held the Spanish Giants 0-0 in Spain, and then it finished 2-2 here at the racecourse. Steve Massey and Steve Buxton scoring for Wrexham, but ultimately going out in front of a crowd nearing 15,000. Mia, as a protagonist of the women's world of sport yourself, stories like Angela's quite incredible.
Yeah, fascinating. I mean, I think it's brilliant that we're obviously showing off some stories like that, because people just don't know about these things, and hearing that she was on the bench, translating, I think it's just brilliant, and people absolutely love those sorts of things.
That won't happen now, right?
Exactly not. No,
Not quite.
You never know. Who knows?
And Andy, of course, when you were here, we went through some dark times financially as well, and people might think, goodness, they reached out to a sportswear manufacturer to see if they could be donated some kit. But that was maybe not the norm, but it wasn't uncommon, wasn't it, over several eras here?
No, you just got to try and find a way to keep your head above water and keep your club going, whether that's volunteers, help, whatever you can get that will help the club move forward and stay afloat, you looked for. And you know, all those sponsors that came in those times that put their hard-earned cash into the club when things weren't great, you know, credit to them, because we're seeing the fruition now of keeping it running.
And Andy, just while we're looking back a little bit, very sad loss this week of someone who was part of your backroom team when you were manager here. I'll just let you talk about this person.
Yeah, Alan Jones was my was our kit man. A huge character in when we only had a small, real small staff. And when on a morning he'd make you scrambled eggs and beans that we always had every morning, and you could just hear his infectious laugh, you know, in the kitchen coming from there. And he was the one that came on away trips, sorted us out, helped us all out, and he was just around the club at so many unsung heroes around this place, and he was a huge one. And I think everybody that is a long-term fan of this football club will remember Al and his trolley for the kit that he used to wheel around, that was seen on BT and all those games. But it's going to be such a sad loss. I'm gutted, and all my sympathies go through to family and their friends.
Yeah, well said, Andy. Alan Jones, a real character around Wrexham, a real character around his home village of Gresford as well. He will be much missed, and we send all our sympathies to Alan and his family. Well, last week on Matchday Live, we launched a new competition, and we promised that we would reveal the winners in this week's show. First of all, a huge thank you to all 800 of you who entered, and a few more. It was great to have over 800 entries for the competition, but there can, of course, be only 2 winners of our wonderful signed Wrexham Legends boxed shirts, and we're delighted to reveal them now. You'll see on screen the 2 lucky winners of the competition, so a very well done to J. Masic Pavlovic from Serbia. Well done there over in Serbia. J. Masic Pavlovic and J. Cole, who is a little bit closer to home in the UK. You are the lucky winners of those signed Mickey Thomas boxed shirts, and someone from the club will be in touch in the coming days to arrange for delivery. So really, really well done, and we hope you look forward to receiving your items, and thank you to everyone else who entered. We wish you luck for the next competition, which hopefully won't be too far in the future at the club. Well, looking ahead to today's game, Ollie Rathbone has been on press conference duty, and the Wrexham attacking midfielder has been giving his thoughts ahead of today's match with Stoke City.
Ollie, nice to see you. What's been the key message since Sunday's game at Birmingham?
Yeah, I think we just kind of need to keep our heads up a little bit. We've had a disappointing couple of results, but I think that's the first time we've seen that we've lost back-to-back games. So it's just about reminding ourselves that we're a very good team, and we've got 4 big games to go, and we'll give it our very best like we have done all season.
Just on that, Ollie, Dan Scarf mentioned the other day, it feels like every game's a must-win now, but like you say, you are still in the running. Is that how it feels to you at the moment?
Yeah, I think, every game is 3 points that we've grabbed. That's the same in September as it is now. I think it's just now you've got a clear picture of what you need to get. But I think the focus is always for us just kind of our own performance and getting the performance levels back to where we've proved we can get this year.
And just on Stoke, I mean, they had a very strong start to the season, but have tailed off a bit recently. I mean, what do you make of them, and what do you expect on Saturday from them?
Yeah, I mean, I think they're a bit of a disappointing run of form in a different position to where we played them earlier in the season, but we've still got a lot of very good players and need to be respected, and we'll do that. And
coming back here to play after a tough away game on Sunday, I mean, this has been the bedrock of some brilliant success over the last number of years, and you were part of it last season as well. I mean, what's it like coming back here when you've got these massive occasions? Yeah, it's great. Yeah, I think at a similar point this time last year, we kind of let it get out of our hands a little bit, going for promotion. Then we went to Blackpool and won. It had changed in 90 minutes, and then it was in our hands. And then that Saturday we came in and beat Charlton at home, and that was a really special day for the club. So I think everyone knows that starting this Saturday we've had a really good end to the season. Does that help you much? Because they say you personally, you were there for it. Max James, Max Clear, those boys were all there last year going through it as well. I mean, how influential can that be when you've done it before? I think it does help, definitely. And even lads that weren't here last year throughout their careers, they've always been at clubs that have been successful. So yeah, it definitely does help when you know what it feels like here when the crowd gets up and you get a great result. There's no better feeling. Just on the manager as well, he's been in a situation numerous times just at Wrexham, but previously in his career as well. I mean, what's he like in these crunch moments of the season?
Yeah, he's very consistent to be fair throughout the whole season. He doesn't really get too high, doesn't really get too low. The messages kind of always stay the same really, so it makes it easier for us players.
And on a personal level, Ollie, obviously you had a tough start to the season with the injury, but you've come back, and where are you feeling your games at the moment?
Yeah, good. Yeah, obviously didn't kind of get back into the team till December, and then I think basically played every game since. So been really happy with that. Managed to stay fit, which is kind of what I wanted when I had that big setback to start of the season. So yeah, hopefully have a strong finish to the season.
Appreciate it, Ollie. Thank you.
Always.
Wrexham midfielder Ollie Rathbone giving us his insights ahead of today's match against Stoke City. The sun is back out over the Stoke Kairas. We really are getting every season thrown at us in our pre-match show on Matchday Live today. If you've just joined us, then it's 4 changes from Phil Parkinson to the side beaten at Birmingham City. Perhaps the most notable, Danny Ward returning in goal for Arthur Okonkwo. The first time he has been given the gloves in 7.5 months. Rathbone starts today, Mia. Organisationally, how are you anticipating Phil Parkinson sets up that front third?
Well, obviously on first look, we'd probably expect it to be that box that we've seen, for the most part of the season now since he made that change fairly early on. But I thought he did sort of hint at maybe it becoming that midfield 3 again with Windass just off Sam Smith when he spoke to you at the start of the show, Chris. So that'll be interesting to see whether he does do that and just tweaks it slightly. Obviously, we know Stoke are weakened at the back. So today, I just hope we get at them and really cause them problems, especially with Sam Smith. We know, as Phil again alluded to, loves to get in behind, but can we really get Windass and Ollie Rathbone doing exactly the same and just cause so many issues?
Angela Smith was saying to us just there, Andy, of how weakened Stoke are at the back. They've got no back four today, to quote Angela. What sort of role can Rathbone bring to try and expose that?
Well, I think he's got to go past Smith at times. When the ball's going into Smith, we've got to expect him to win it, or at least put off the centre halves who can't win it, and maybe just take a bit of a gamble. And we've got to affect that back line a lot more than we did on Sunday. A lot of the balls, Clara and Newman, they just ate it all up that we were playing into Kiefer, and we've just got to be a little bit more cute, a little bit more guile up there, and move people around a little bit to create these opportunities. And that means our 2 10s, if we do go 10s, of just going past Smith with a run from midfield, even if it's with one of our back 3, just go and make that run. It might clear a space for somebody else maybe to play into Smith, and then we can go from there.
Phil spoke, Andy, pre-match about wanting to get back to the sort of Wrexham performance that we saw against Nottingham Forest, that we saw against Chelsea, Sheffield United. Dynamic play, getting forward quickly. The first few minutes of the game, I think, today are going to be crucial, aren't they, in that respect? Because if Wrexham get off to a flat start, there's going to be a worry, I think, that will go around the ground of, this is what we've seen a bit over the last few weeks. But if it's a really punchy start, then the whole dynamic of the ground changes.
I think that's with every game you've got to try and do that, and we just haven't done it for the past 6 or 7, really. We've gone behind 2 goals in 5 of the 7, haven't we? And so, yeah, first balls, compete first balls, but then second balls are so important. Get around where the ball is, get that first contact on it, get that second contact on it, and then you can go and play from in those good positions, rather than us, we'll wait for it to come back and then we'll get it and we'll play. Let's go and be really front foot, and this is where Ollie Rathbone for me comes in. He's got to be around it and give all his energy, take his handbrake off, let him go, and then everybody else can follow.
Mia, I guess the danger perhaps could be that looking at a team with a weakened defence and with Wrexham's desire to get on the front foot too early, that you leave the back door open and you leave yourselves exposed. How do Wrexham best mitigate that?
Well, I mean, just look at that midfield of people like Dobson and Matty James, and obviously, the likes of Danskar and obviously Hyam coming back in. I just think that's so solid, and they've got to get back to that. I feel like in the last few weeks, Wrexham have sort of regressed into sort of what they were at the start of the season as a team that, was sort of still thinking, do we really belong here? At what level sort of are we at? A lot of the goals were very soft. I think even Phil Parkinson has said that over the last few weeks. He's admitted, the goals we conceded, not many of them have come from a real great bit of play where you hold your hands up and say there's not much we could do about it. A lot of those goals Wrexham should have been able to put a stop to. So that's got to be the difference today. Let's not give up these easy opportunities. Like Andy says, we've got to start well. That's been a massive issue over the past few weeks, that Wrexham just haven't come out of the blocks, which you're sort of scratching your head as to why that's happening. But we need these fans to get up today. Phil Parkinson obviously calling for that again, but for them to do that, they need to have something to get behind.
Mia, Andy, we'll let you head off to co-commentary. Thank you very much as ever. Andy Morell and Mia Roberts on Matchday Live with me this afternoon. They'll be back at half-time and at full-time today. If you want to catch their commentary, then head to wrexhamafc.co.uk/live for all the details to get your iFollow pass. At half-time, we're going to be joined by former Wrexham manager Dennis Smith. I had the chance to catch up with Dennis just before we came on air, and we'll show you that interview at half-time. Former Stoke player, played almost 500 times for the Potters, and legendary Wrexham manager not long after the millennium, in troubled times for the club when he took them against the odds to success. Don't forget, today you can be part of the fan wall, either inside the stadium or on our holding slates, which we have during the periods of the first and second half here on Matchday Live. There's the QR code on screen if you need the details. You just need to scan that QR code on your phone, and that will give you the chance to follow the instructions and tell us where you're watching from today. We know it's really popular for people to appear on the fan wall, so if you want to join them, then follow those instructions and you should see yourself through the periods of play on this link, or potentially also inside the stadium here. All right, 5 minutes to kick off then, or thereabouts. Wrexham against a much weakened Stoke City. Can Phil Parkinson's Red Dragons get it right this afternoon after two disappointing losses in their last two games? You feel it's pretty much a must-win today for the Red Dragons if they're going to keep themselves as serious contenders for that final place in the Sky Bet Championship playoffs. Stoke City, though, not too far away across the A Road. They are going to want to make sure that they come here and put in a good performance. They arrive with 5 straight defeats on the road. Not a team in form, not a team at strength. That doesn't mean, though, they are necessarily going to be easy. Wrexham with Danny Ward returning in goal. Hyam back in for Max Cleworth. Windass reinstalled to play off Sam Smith, as Phil Parkinson pursues a return to the kind of front foot attacking football that his side have shown they can play earlier this season. This is their moment in the last Saturday 3 o'clock kickoff of the regular season to see if Wrexham can power their way past Stoke City and start putting pressure once more on Hull and Derby County. We'll be back here then, same link at half-time, to review the first half and to hear from Dennis Smith. We look forward to your company then as Wrexham face Stoke City. Bye for now.
Bedwyr sydd ond wedi dynodi fydd yna lleafsym o 1 munud ychwanegol. The fourth official has indicated there will be a minimum of 1 minute added time, 1 minute.
Half-time at the racecourse. It is Wrexham 2, Stoke City 0. A much more positive opening 45 minutes to talk about from Phil Parkinson's side this afternoon. After 2 goals within barely a minute of each other, really changed the complexion of this game. Stoke City came out quite positively in the opening exchanges without creating too many clear-cut chances to worry Danny Ward, but Wrexham were left really to opportunities on the break to try and get Sam Smith involved. But it wasn't really until the half hour that we had the first clear-cut chance, a header clearance coming out to Ollie Rathbone from a corner, and Rathbone's shot was scuffed off the line by Ben Pearson. That gave Wrexham the chance from a corner to ask questions of Gavin Bazunu, and up stepped George Thomason. He almost achieved it against Bristol City earlier in the season, but today he managed to score directly from a corner. Thomason swinging the ball in from the right-hand side with that that trusty left peg. Bazunu misjudging it, and the ball nestling into the back of the net. Breakthrough then for Wrexham in the 31st minute, and barely a minute later, an error at the back from Aaron Cresswell as he was too short with his attempted back pass to Bazunu, let in Josh Windass. Windass finishing beyond the on-loan Southampton goalkeeper for his 14th of a very productive first season in red. Wrexham then comfortable at the interview, 2 goals to the good, and in every good shape, you would think, to try and secure 3 points. Andy Morrell and Mia Roberts have been watching on. Well, Andy, that was a bit more positive.
That's a bit better, isn't it? You know, I think we came flying out the traps after what Phil had said in pre-match. It does look like, well, it's Windass off Smith up front, really, the 2 strikers back in there, and they're just offering in behind all the time, asking questions of that back 4 of Stoke, which then gives you space in the pockets to go and play. And I just thought that Stoke have done all right. They've got into the final third. Their quality at the end hasn't been great when they've got there, but just see what a confidence lift the goal gives us.
Yeah.
You know, it's a brilliant set piece. It's whipped into that back post. Whether it's Windass at the back post, I think he just takes it off another one of Thomas's that might be not credited to him, and then straight after chases a lost cause, nicks in for the second, and we look comfortable now, and the confidence in everybody's just gone through the roof.
As Andy says, Mia, the goals really changed the dynamic of the game, but for the first half hour, Wrexham did struggle a bit to find their rhythm.
Yeah, I thought both sides, were probably even in that first half. I think Stoke had some good moments, Manhoef probably being, the star man for them in terms of just a few good bits of skill here and there, but both teams sort of final product just lacking. But I think George Thomas, and like Andy says, been superb. I think that's obviously something they've picked out as Sorba Thomas in at right back. Doesn't want to defend, doesn't want to be penned back in that position. He wants to be getting forward and getting those balls into the box, like we talked about at the start of the show. And George Thomas recognising that, Ollie Rathbone recognising that, getting forward. Really saying no, we're going to make you defend whether you like it or not. And Wrexham have been so much better, like you say, since getting those goals. You just feel that flipping momentum. You felt it straight away, and brilliant to see. And I just hope now we continue to go for it, because in the last few weeks that goal difference has been sadly brought back down again, and we need to change that.
You mentioned pre-match, Mia, when you looked at the Stoke 11, that you thought Thomas would have to drop in at right back, and as you say, George Thomason's probably had as much space as he's had in weeks, hasn't he, on several occasions, picking the ball up inside his own half and driving forward 50 yards.
Yeah, he's been incredible at doing that. Equally, I'd say, in moments, his recovery runs have also been really impressive. There was one moment where Junho gets the ball, fairly into that final third. Just getting a bit.
Is it raining?
Keep going, Mia, keep going.
The volley's back out.
Yeah, and George Thomason actually found himself. He'd done the press initially, found himself in his own half, and within a millisecond, it felt like he'd made that recovery sprint back in. And it's those moments, that was just after Wrexham had gone 2-0 up. It's those moments that are so important, that they keep that lead. Don't give Stoke a sniff, because once you flip that, this place it might get a little bit tense again. That's what I mean when I say I hope Wrexham go get a third and absolutely keep shut out Stoke.
That old maxim in football, 2-0 is a dangerous scoreline. Let's have a look at the half-time statistics then, to see both in attack and in defence how the first half played out. It certainly felt for much of the first half an hour or so that Stoke had more possession, but that perhaps swung back a bit in the latter stages of the half. In fact, it is Wrexham who've had majority just of possession, 52-48 if we use round numbers, 4 shots to 3, but as you can see from a Stoke perspective, not one yet on target to worry Danny Ward. Wrexham with 4 out of 4 on target. Good attempts there, making sure Bazunu was having to be alert. 2 Stoke corners to Wrexham's 1. 4 offsides. Yes, there was certainly a period in the first half where the offside flag was coming up repeatedly around the edge of the 18-yard box against Smith and Windass in particular. Let's have a look at the defensive statistics on that opening 45. Because Danny Ward has been well protected by that new back 3 of Hyam at right centre-back, Dan Scarr again in the middle, and Callum Doyle on the left. Wrexham having to make the more clearances. Sam Gallagher, the big target man for Stoke, certainly being hit quite a few times by the Stoke wingers. Manhoef and Cisse getting forward. Stoke having the better overall of the aerial duels. But I guess, Andy, when we shake all those statistics down, the amount of true threat to the Wrexham goal has been pretty minimal.
Yeah, well, you can see we've had to make more clearances, but we've looked really solid, and we're quite happy for the ball to be out wide and people putting balls in the box, because when you've got Scar and Hyam and Doyle all mixed in there, you've got a chance of clearing it, and you really train that as a thing in your weekly prep, if you like, for the games. Stay in here and just clear balls, and we're happy. That's how we defend. We don't want balls going in and about us, because the quick players can cause us problems. So deal with the cross as it comes in, like we have done. Looks solid. And Wardy's done everything behind it that he's needed to. A really important, just a catch from a corner, but it just looks solid, takes the calmness out of the game. That's brilliant.
And Mia, just before I let you and Andy have a bit of a break at half-time, if you were Phil now, would your perspective be you really tighten this down now and shut all the doors against Stoke for the second half, or do you keep pushing and trying to exploit that makeshift defence?
I think you've got to keep pushing. Like I said, that goal difference could play a part. We don't know how tight it's going to be in 3 games time. You just don't know about these things. So I think you've got to keep going. 4 shots on target in that first half. That's double what we've had in the last 2 games. I think you've got to keep it on that nature and hopefully get some more. Look at the attacking threat we've got on the bench as well. They'll be keen to get on there and make a difference too.
Andy, Mia, thank you very much for surviving the sprinklers, the rain and the sunshine at half-time here at the Stoke Kairas. Wrexham 2, Stoke City 0 if you are just joining us on Matchday Live. Now, before kick-off today, I had the chance to catch up with a legend for both of these clubs. Dennis Smith was a stalwart for Stoke City during their successful period in the 1970s at centre-back, alongside the archetypal Alan Blore for Stoke City in that period. He then came to Wrexham in the early part of the new millennium, guiding the club to perhaps surprising success when the financial restrictions and difficulties were at some of their worst. And I had the chance to catch up with Dennis just underneath his Hall of Fame sign in the Bamford Suite just before kick-off today. Dennis, fantastic as ever to see you back at the Stoke Kairas, and today 2 of your old clubs locking horns. We'll come to your time, of course, as Wrexham manager in a moment, but you're a Stoke man born and bred, and over 480 appearances for your home city club from the late 60s to the early 80s. When you look back on your Stoke career, Dennis, what really stands out for you in your many years at the club?
Well, being a Stoke lad and going to Stoke from when I was 4 or 5 years of age, going out and playing on the pitch straight away, to be able to do that was a lifelong ambition. That's what I wanted to do. I only wanted to play for Stoke. I played for Stoke-on-Trent schoolboys and we won the English School Shield, and other clubs came in for me. But I only wanted to sign for Stoke. Unfortunately, I achieved that. Went on to do, say 500 games roughly as a player, and when it's your own town club, I mean, I got tapped up to go to Man United, and Brian Clough was on the phone quite a lot trying to get me to go to Forest. But I'd get home and my wife say, that man's been on the phone again. So,
that man, Mr. Clough.
Yeah. So they wanted me at these, but I was a Stokey, and there was no way. We were a good side. I mean, we won the League Cup in 72.
Yeah.
We had a couple of FA Cup semi-finals. So we were decent, especially cup side. And I was playing with some great people. Gordon Banks, Jeff Hurst, George Easton, all 1966 squad. We had some good players.
And in your playing career, Dennis, you also made it into the Guinness Book of Records as the most injured man in football. I think I'm right, 5 broken legs, 4 broken noses, a broken collarbone, a couple of other things as well. Your style of play was fearless.
It was stupid, I think, is a better way of putting it. Yeah, I'm in the Guinness Book of Records for that. And it was one of those things. I've got a plate in my neck, a plate in my arm, a new hip, 3 new knees, and a big spike up through my ankle with bolts. So I have great fun going through the airports.
You must cause them plenty of challenges.
Yeah.
And of course, it was that sort of tenacity and spirit which made you a great fit for Wrexham when you came here as manager back in 2001. It was, of course, a time of great challenge for the club around that era for a number of reasons. The collapse of ITV Digital was one. The leadership of the club at the other end of the spectrum was another. Just talk us through a little bit some of your main memories from your time as manager here.
Well, first of all, say how much I enjoyed being in Wales, because I was English. They hadn't had too many English managers, so that was a challenge. But I came in, and yeah, it was in turmoil. But there was good people here, and with those good people, I could hopefully build on things. The 2 days on the board, who I got to know. In the end, I finished up on the board. Cost me money. I've been on the board a couple of times at clubs, once here and one at Oxford, and both have cost me money. So being on a board of directors at football clubs is not a good way of making a living.
But on the pitch, Dennis, of course, the promotion in 2003, promoted from what was or what is now League Two up to League One, with a certain Andy Morrell getting 34 goals for you that season.
Yeah, I mean, Andy's a great lad. I mean, I'm sure he still comes here occasionally. He's got heart and soul in playing. He made runs constantly. So we had people who could get good wingers who could cross the ball. So Andy was always in and around the box and was prepared to put his head or his body on the line to get the ball in the net. So if you've got those, Andy Morrell would be one of those lads that comes in, he trains, he's always first in, last to leave, and he's going to turn up on Saturday. You don't have to worry about him.
And of course, 2005, Andy had left the club by then. He'd gone on to his move to Coventry City, but that was a particularly difficult season, 04-05. But you managed to guide the club to silverware at the Millennium Stadium, beating Southend United 2-0 in extra time. An incredible achievement considering the turmoil at the club at that time.
Considering the state we were in, to be able to achieve that is brilliant. That's a big compliment to the two Daves who back me all the time, and the fact that the players stuck with it. They could have left. Some of them weren't getting paid the right amounts or on time or anything, but they stuck with it, and they got something out of it, which was fabulous.
I'm delighted to see, Dennis, you're wearing your LDV Vans final tie today as well from 2005. Still looks in excellent condition.
It is. It only comes when I come to Wrexham.
Quite right, so as well. And just finally, Dennis, we'll take a score prediction from you for today. Stoke and Wrexham, how do you see this one?
Well, as somebody who's been a Stoke fan since the day he was born, and never thought I'd hear myself say this, because I always want Stoke to win. I would say that's why I never managed them. I got offered the job, but I wouldn't manage them because it's totally different. Managing the club, playing for them, great. Managing, you have to make decisions that people don't like, and so I turned the Stoke job down a few times. But today, because Stoke really haven't got anything to play for today, and Wrexham have still got a chance in the playoffs, I'm going over for a Wrexham win. So let's make it entertaining, 4-3 or something.
Dennis, let's hope so. Fantastic to see you. Thanks for joining us today.
My pleasure. Take care.
Substitute for Stoke, entering the field number 11, Robert Jenny. And leaving the field number 20, Sam Gallagher. Substitution for Stoke, leaving the field number 8, Lewis Baker. He was replaced by number 12, Tatsuki Seko. Substitution for Wrexham, leaving the field number 20, Ollie Rathbone, and he's been replaced by number 47, Ryan Rodman. Correction, number 27, Lewis O'Brien. Substitution for Wrexham, leaving the field, number 10, Josh Windass. He's been replaced by number 33, Nathan Broadhead. midfield, number 28, Sam Smith. He's been replaced by number 19, Keith Moore. Substitution for Stoke, leaving the field number 18, Bossam Lawal. He's being replaced by number 54, Rafael Piers Otigbeo. Bydd yn ofyn yn y lle absolut 6 munud ychwanegol. The fourth official has indicated there will be a minimum of 6 minutes, and in time that's 6 minutes. Very heavy. Thank you all for your fantastic support. Took mine to dog heavy on a Stoke Kairas. The official attendance at the Stoke Kairas is 10,633. Our grateful thanks to the 1,271 away fans. We hope you have a safe journey home. For the game next over the Stoke Kairas, our rival of eye on Edwin Middlesbrough in a kick on top and trio forward. A reminder the next home game at the Stoke Kairas is on May 2nd when Middlesbrough the visitors for our Sky Bet Championship match, which kicks off at 12:30pm. Cymerwch o Wrexham Stadium gan ymuno nesa adre I bawb, a safe journey home to all supporters. Please do take care when leaving the stadium. The club shop is open for 30 minutes after full time, and we have the UEFA Euro Under-19s trophy on display in store ahead of this summer's tournament in North Wales. We'll see you again on May the 2nd. Not like that.
Wrexham are back on the winning trail. Wrexham 2, Stoke City 0 here at full time. A sun-kissed racecourse by the time this reached its conclusion, and Wrexham have breathed fresh hope into their playoff challenge. Victory here against Stoke, together with Hull being held by Birmingham City this afternoon, means the gap is back to 2 points with those playoff places. 3 games to go for Phil Parkinson's side. This was a thoroughly professional performance, 2 up at half-time, thanks to George Thomason's effort direct from a corner and Josh Windas's neat finish after an error from Aaron Cresswell. Wrexham saw this out in the second half with some comfort. Danny Ward only rarely extended as a solid defensive display kept the Stoke attempts at bay. In truth, Wrexham didn't have too many clear chances of their own to add to their 2-0 half-time lead. Josh Windass with a lob from distance and a Sam Smith header over the bar, the nearest that Parkinson's side came. But it mattered not a jot because the defensive effort was totally solid. Stoke with 1 or 2 half chances in injury time, including Lamine Cissé hitting the top of the crossbar with an outstretched foot. But in truth, Wrexham never looked like surrendering this 2-goal lead, which keeps them very much in the playoff conversation, and all eyes will turn quickly to the trip to Oxford United this coming Tuesday night. Mia Roberts and Andy Morell have presided over that one. Mia, job done.
Absolutely, job done. You know, like you say, professional. I think that's a perfect word to sort of sum that up. Listen, I thought Stoke were really poor at times. I thought particularly final third, they just didn't cause Wrexham any real problems. You know, I thought even with Sorba Thomas out at right back, that might actually in some ways help Stoke in the sense that it might give him a bit more time actually on the ball, to work his crosses in. But even the ones went in, I think Dom Hyam, Doyle and Scar all deserve credit more often than not. I feel like they were getting that first contact, and then even on the seconds, whether it was a block or then finding that pass going forward, really impressive. And maybe a little bit surprised that they didn't maybe go a bit more for a third in that second half to try and get a few more and really make a bit of a bigger statement in terms of goals. But at the end of the day, 3 points, and with Hull dropping, that's what Wrexham need at this point in time.
Andy?
Yeah, as comfortable a win I think as we've had here this season. I think Stoke, with all the injuries that they had, they've had to piece it together. But they got themselves in some decent positions, but their quality in that final third just wasn't up to much, and we've dealt with everything that got chucked away, and then 2 minutes in the first half has turned the game in our favour, and we didn't have to do too much in that second half. I thought we were good in possession, and like Mir, I thought let's go for a third and let's go and get it a little bit, but beggars can't be choosers, let's just take the 3 points and move on.
When you're on a run, Andy, of 5 successive away defeats, and you've been competitive for the first half hour, arguably the slightly better side for the first half hour, when you concede 2 goals back to back like that, is it just inevitable human psychology that heads just go down and you think, here we go again, we've done all right for half an hour and we're suddenly 2 down, this is going to be the 6th defeat on the spin?
Yeah, you sort of think, it doesn't matter what I do, we're just going to go behind. And I think that was part of where Stoke ended up, really. They're in it, they're in the game, they're causing us a few issues, but we've defended it quite well. And then bang, bang, they're soon out of the game and it's over. And I think at the end, the second half pretty much, I think we were comfortable and we were happy with a 2-0 win, and I think they were happy with a 2-0 loss as well, because they didn't want to get hurt more, do you know what I mean, or got done any more. Yes, we can have a go, but I'm not going to really push the boat out and try and get back in the game. Let's just not get heavily beat, if you like.
Danny Ward on his return. Mia, plenty of vocal encouragement. I could hear him clearly from where I was stood in the second half, clearly organising his defence well with his instructions. But I think he would have been surprised at probably how little he had to do across 90 minutes.
Yeah, and especially, like we've already touched on, we were expecting a lot of balls into that box, but, so many of them were those sort of loopy, sort of catch in practice type forward, and, he'll be delighted with that. I think, still it's a very good performance from him, because everything he did, it just felt, 10 out of 10 and very calm, very composed, and there was never any real moment where you were thinking, on his first start back, obviously hasn't played since earlier on in the season. There was never a point where you sort of saw that and sort of thought, Stoke have picked up on that and are really going to try and push him here. But that's full credit to him, and again, like you say, what he can bring from a communication point of view as well is equally as important, whether that's just literally him organising those 3 in front of him. So I think he'll be absolutely delighted with that game today, and I think now probably expect to be there on Tuesday too.
It's a dream comeback, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Like, just stood in goal. I could have
Clean
played in
sheet,
goal,
yeah.
I think, today. His kicking was quality. That's something that he does have over Arthur. Is he played a ball in the first half over the top for Smith, right on the money, and it's pretty much in if Creswell doesn't manage to get a toe on it. Very calm in possession. His punchy passes to each other when the fullbacks are out or our centre halves come out. He's just really calm in possession, and then he caught a couple that were really good. Just come out. He's done everything that needed to be done very, very well today, and it's perfect. He's had no shots to save, has he, today? He's had no iffy moments, if you like. Perfect comeback.
And Dan Scarmy, I'd just like to look at him a little bit, because this afternoon, absolutely rock solid, I thought, throughout. And he saw off Sam Gallagher, who was withdrawn just after half-time. He, of course, ripped through Wrexham when he was a Blackburn player a couple of years ago in that cup tie at Ewood Park. And then the Slovakian Bojanik comes on, who's a physical presence. And again, Scar more than dealt with him. He just seems to have this ability to be very patient for long periods of a season and then come back in like he did about this time last season. And what you get from him is absolutely Dan Scar 100% every week.
Well, no, we said that last week at Birmingham when he came back into the squad, because we sort of looked back to see, was it actually, sort of the exact same date? And it pretty much almost was. He came back in this time last season against Bristol Rovers on that Friday for the second half, after what had been a bit of a nightmare first half for Wrexham, and then wasn't taken out of the side. So I think from his point of view now, he knows that if he keeps doing that, he'll be in now till the end of the season. And again, it's a bit of that recency bias as he then heads into the summer. Be at the top of your manager's thoughts, and again, he does the sort of simple things to perfection. At times it is just a bit of a habit. Let's clear it, let's get it out. But at times you have to say, You know, again, going back to some of the goals Wrexham have conceded over recent weeks, maybe that's what's been needed.
And Isa Kabore, Andy, we picked him out pre-match. We looked at him squaring up to Sorba Thomas. We talked about the fact that consistency was perhaps a little bit of a worry with Isa, but when he was on form, he was a real asset. I thought this afternoon was much more back to the Kabore that we'd seen a little bit earlier in the season than perhaps we'd seen as much of in the last few weeks.
Yeah, well, I think a lot of our play goes down that left-hand side because of Doyle, and he's so good on the ball. And he's had a lot of space today to wait and be patient and just wait for his opportunity. And when we do eventually come and switch that ball out to him, he's able to then go and play a lovely little relationship with Windass when he came out, little back heel inside, and then he's inside outside. When he's one-on-one, I think if he's positive and shows a bit of intent, then he's pretty unplayable at times, and that's where we need to get him more often than not.
If you're just joining us on Match Day Live, Wrexham 2, Stoke City 0, the full time here at the racecourse this afternoon, and that has also given us the opportunity to see Danny Ward back in goal for Wrexham for the first time in 7.5 months. He's going to come and join Andy and Mia and I in the studio now. Danny, lovely to see you again. Thank you very much for coming to join us. Well, 7.5 months out, Danny, didn't look like you'd ever been away.
No, I didn't feel it, to be honest. Good game to come back into, I think, as well. Real professional performance, really solid, and yeah, everything they chucked at us, we sort of dealt with. So yeah, really pleasing to come away with a clean sheet as well.
It's been a tough couple of weeks with recent results not to the standards I'm sure that you would all hope for in the camp. Just take us into the dressing room this afternoon, Dan, immediately before kick-off. What was the kind of vibe in there? Was it a kind of calm focus, or was it a bit more smacking on the walls and getting each other going?
No, it was calm. We've got a really experienced group, you know, boys who have come in have been at this level, have been in this situation before. Boys that were here last year have obviously experienced being at the top ends of the tables, so no, just calm. It's take each game as it comes, and I know it's a big old cliche, but it's literally how we go about our business, and our aim was to put on a performance and try and get back to where we've been the majority of the season.
And Danny, obviously picking up that injury, obviously you started as number one really for Phil Parkinson at the start of this campaign, and picking up that injury and being out for so long, could you see a sort of path back into the starting 11 as we sort of draw closer to the end of the season?
It's always difficult. You know, goalkeepers, as we all know, there's only one of us. We can't slot in at right back or in midfield like he used to try and put.
You could have done. You could have done.
But no, listen, injuries happen in football. Obviously, unfortunate for me, but you know, Big Arth come in and it's been brilliant all season. So it's all about the team. It's not about one person or 11 players on the pitch. It's about everyone we've got in the change room, you know, as well as the staff and the fans and everyone in here. So hopefully, yeah, it's nice to get the nod and a clean sheet, but we've just got to go again Tuesday now and hope for the same again.
And how's it been for you? You know, obviously not looking at the season back, it's not been ideal, really, has it? You know, and the way you would have loved it to have been, but mentally, how have you managed to cope with that? You know, when you're injured, long-term injury, and you're seeing the lads doing ever so well. You've just got to be, I suppose, chirpy around the place. Is that as best as I can put it?
Yeah. I was quite fortunate that there was a couple of boys in the treatment room already who really looked after me. You know, with J-Rod and Andy Cannon and people like that who were in there for a long term. So we got around each other. If one of us were having a bit of a down day, then we'd make sure that we're still good around the place and keeping everyone's spirits high. But ultimately, it's not actually been that hard at some points because of people like, you know, the change room we've got is fantastic, but also we were doing well, we were winning games. It's obviously difficult not being on the grass and contributing what you'd like to, but ultimately you've got to find a way of contributing, and whether that's around the building, on the training pitch, or in the change room before a game. You know, we're all here for a reason, and you know, we all want to win at the end of the day. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, and patient while you've been back fit, and you've got to wait because Arthur's been doing great. Do you know what I mean? You get your opportunity. When did you find out? Were you ready to go and just come on? For me, you couldn't have had a better game to come back into.
No, it was ideal, to be fair.
Yeah,
I think
I could have played in.
I think the only dive I had was from the goal kick there towards
he slipped
the end.
over.
Yeah, but Sky's got to work on his touch, hasn't he? Yeah. But no, it was. I found out a couple of days ago, so plenty of time. I've been around a long time, so we're in the business of playing games. Ultimately, we want to be able to contribute on the grass, and thankfully today we've come away with a clean sheet, which is always nice for us. We get at the back, but it starts at the top of the boys pressing. So I don't think anything sort of encapsulated that more than the second goal, where, you know, Josh, who's known as a number 10, he runs in behind, he's hassling and he gets his reward. So, real good team performance, solid, and hopefully we carry that on now for the last 3 games.
And having got back in the side, Danny, is it a good thing for you that another game comes so quickly, that you're kind of back in rhythm again, you get the chance to go again so soon?
Absolutely, yeah. I've missed a lot of football this year, so, you know, the more the merrier. I'm just a little bit sad there's only 3 games left of the season, but no, you're right.
Maybe 3 games.
as we stand. Let's just be careful. But yeah, hopefully we can extend the season. But no, next 3 games, take Tuesday and see how we go from there. And then, like I say, we roll into the next one and then the next one, and hopefully there's a couple more at the end of the season.
And just finally, Danny, the gap back to 2 points. So what started as 4 points at the start this afternoon, already back to 2.
Yeah, puts a little bit of wind in the sails. I don't think this group of players or management need a bit of wind in the sails. We understand what we want to achieve, we understand what we need to do, and today was the start of that, getting back into basics and a proper performance.
Danny, thanks so much for coming to join us. Well done on your return today. Really good to see you. Thank you very much. Danny Ward joining us post-match on Matchday Live, Wales and Wrexham goalkeeper. Back in between the sticks for the first time in 7.5 months this afternoon. And Phil Parkinson straight into the studio as if by clockwork to join us. Phil, huge congratulations. An excellent win. You must be really pleased with that.
Yeah, it was a very important win for us today. Not just in terms of the league position, but for ourselves. We've got a lot of pride in the staff and the dressing room and the club, and we're disappointed to lose the last couple of games, and it was vital we got back with a strong team performance, because that's what I felt it was today.
When you asked the lads to go out and give you the Wrexham performance you sought this afternoon, Phil, what sort of qualities did you see in that 90 that said, yeah, tick on the box in terms of that's what I asked for?
Well, first of all, what I said to you before the game, that I thought that we got our balance and our mixture back in our play, some good control at times with the ball, but also always carried a threat in behind. And one of the defenders has come off with a tight hamstring in the first half, another one the second half, and that's because Smudger made them run. He made them run. The wing backs made them defend, and that was important for us today. That we carried that threat, and we've always had that in the team, and we just went away from it for whatever reason last week. But today, I felt there was a good mixture in our play, and some great controlled possession at times as well, because you need that. You can't go forward and behind every time you've got the ball. You've got to pick the right moments to do that. And in general, Smudger was fractionally offside a few times, but on another day could have got in 3 or 4 times, certainly in the first half.
Second half very much looked like good game management, Phil. The chances really that Stoke had very few and far between, and in injury time. Was that something you'd said to the team at half time about just trying to tighten the screw a bit, having got 2 up?
I think it was more or less at half time that can we go and produce a performance over the 90 minutes, because we spoke to the lads this week about making sure we have a bit of accountability individually to put in better performances. It just doesn't happen when you win. Everyone's got to play better than we've done. I've got to perform better than I've done in the last 2 games, and I think you saw today there was players who got back to their A game. George Thompson being a great factor in that. I thought he was absolutely brilliant for us today, and he's been so good for us. Rathbone again, back to how we know he can play. So I think there's some good performances there, good confidence building, because it's amazing game football that even when you just lose 2 games, it's rare for us here to have that type of run, and you can just see a little bit of a dip in confidence. So it's important that we got that back by working as a team today, and obviously the clean sheet helps, and pleased for Wardy, because Wardy's waited patiently, and he got the team, as you all know, at the start of the season, had that really bad injury, and but he's been terrific for us in terms of the way he is around the building, and he deserved that chance today, and he took it with a real calmness.
And when you make changes, Phil, particularly late in the season, there must be some element of trepidation when you're making alterations, because you've had that back 3 and goalkeeper so set for so many months. You must be pleased with the cohesion that they showed today, because it can't be easy for players to come together in a match situation who haven't had that much game time together for a while.
Yeah, I think obviously moving Dom to the right, obviously he's played there early in the season, but the kind of distances at the start, maybe not quite. A couple of times it is a bounced out to press when Dom wasn't quite ready. Obviously Ollie Rathbone coming back into a left 8 rather than the 10. It's a slightly different role. Windass, dropping into the single 10. So slightly different dynamic to the team. But yeah, going back to the back 3, of course, there's always an element of risk, but obviously I've got the benefit that I've seen the players in training every single day, and I wanted to kind of assess things this week. Tuesday, I said to Steve, I don't want any chats about what team we're going to pick. I just want to watch the training over the first few days and see in my eyes who I feel is ready for this game and who may just have to come out the firing line.
And Matty James, 90 minutes out of him this afternoon. You got 60 out of him on Sunday, bringing all his qualities today, both defensively and with those balls over the top.
No, he's just a brilliant player, and he's a player who's getting better with age. He really is. And We've missed Matty a lot because he's got the game management. What you saw today, his brain is he's always thinking on the football pitch. He's always speaking to other players, and yeah, we put him in last week, and that was a big ask for him. But I felt we needed to get him back on the pitch. 60 was always going to be the limit, but he needed that 60. He needed this week's training. I think you saw a real progression in him. You know, bearing in mind he's still playing with a toe which hasn't quite healed yet.
Right.
So that's every credit to him.
And now onwards to Oxford on Tuesday. Birmingham have helped you out holding Hull. It's back to a 2-point gap and a chance to maintain the momentum with another game round coming just 3 days away.
Yeah, exactly. I think someone just mentioned me then, today's victory means we're going to finish in the highest ever position in the history of the club. And as much as that's not the ultimate aim, we want to take this chase to the wire. That is also, you know, the lads deserve a lot of credit for that.
As do you.
Well, thank you. But of course, you know, we spoke to the lads this week about, you know, we don't want to hand teams the playoff place. You know, they've got to earn it above, and I think that's key. And you know, the way we needed to achieve that was by ticking the boxes of the performance today, and I felt we did that. But it's great to come off and see that Hull have dropped points. You know, they've got to go to Leicester on Tuesday. Okay, you know, maybe people think maybe less down, but they've got some great players. We've got to go to Oxford in similar circumstances, and yeah, we want to keep it going. We want to keep it going right to the end and just see where it takes us.
Well, Phil, you've certainly given yourselves every chance of doing that with the win today. Many congratulations.
Thanks, Chris.
And many congratulations on what will be the club's highest ever finish in 162 years.
Yeah.
Don't gloss over that too quickly.
Thank you. Cheers.
Wrexham manager Phil Parkinson giving his reflections in the April sunshine now at the Stoke Kairas. It chucked it down with rain earlier. We had wind, we've had sun, we've also had a few sprinklers. Above all, we've had a 2-0 Wrexham win, which is enough to make everybody forget that they might have had a little bit of rain on their jacket this afternoon. Phil obviously delighted, I think a bit relieved as well, Mia, that they found a performance that was much more in step with what we've seen for much of the season.
Yeah, and I think that's what they needed, you know, that performance. We've said that over the last few weeks. Even if that result, that final result isn't necessarily there, can we see a real performance that is like the Wrexham team that we know it can be? And I think, you know, that was back to that today, you know, whether it was Ollie Rathbone or Judge Thomas and the two he picked out, which I totally agree. I thought were absolutely back to their best. And, you know, I think he alluded to it just over the last few weeks. It's been, you know, a group of them that have maybe just dropped below par, and it's been too many that have done that at the same time that has led to the, you know, drop off really in quality and in intensity, which again, you know, it's very rare that we've said that over the last few years, and you know, you have to put that into perspective. And again, when you look at this is now the club's most successful, you know, finish in at this point in the league, and you know, that's remarkable. And that's when you have to take a step back and you have to go, well, you know, last 2 games, yes, very disappointing, but just look where we are. And you know, some people will disagree with that. You know, whatever happens come the end of the season, they'll say, well, it could have been more or whatever. But no, take a step back for a second and just look at how successful, how brilliant this team and staff have been over the last few months. And yet, you know, that was massive today. I think, especially again with Hull dropping points, it just keeps you in it, and that's exactly what, you know, as fans, as everyone involved with this club, that's where you want to be at this stage of the season. You want to be playing for something.
And I thought it was an interesting insight when Phil said Sam Smith runs in behind, of course, 2 centre-backs to go off with hamstring problems. But that's a fascinating point, isn't it? Because if that is the cause, and it might well be a heavy contributor to that, it just shows you the value of how a playing style can hurt another team, perhaps in ways that supporters wouldn't immediately pick up
goals.
Yeah,
yeah.
Not just about the goals, it's about the stretch in every sense.
Yeah, and I think Sam Smith does it so well. And like Phil said, it was so tight, a couple of those decisions on the offside. He was a bit trigger happy that linesman on that side. He could have quite easily been given on in a couple of occasions, but him offering in, the centre halves are just, oh no, I've got to go again, and it might not be the first one, it might not be the 5th one, 6th one, and it might not even be you that makes profit of your good runs, it might be somebody else, but you've just got to keep offering that, because if you do that, they will drop, and then you get your footballers to start playing in those pockets that we've done ever so well with so far this season. I think Smith adds us a little bit extra to this forward line. Keith has been amazing for us. He's a big guy that we can hit and play off, but I think our system and the way we're playing is evolved into a more of a suit Smith a little bit more than maybe Kiefer.
Especially when Matty James is playing, because he's got that ability sitting deep to play the inch perfect ball over the top for the striker on the turn, and that's more Smith territory than Moore, isn't it, really?
Absolutely, and it's just a dream to play. Like, I just love the comment from, he's just a brilliant player. It's as simple as that, James. That is just no more added to it, because he is, when he has the time in the midfield and he gets his touch and he gets his eyes up on the horizon, as a striker, it's just rubbing your hands, because you're in straight in behind, and you know the ball's going to come probably right in where you want it.
And at least a couple of times today, Mia, as well, Beijing Ho was away and James was back as the last line of defence, cutting him out. He's got that dimension as well.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think he is just superb, and again we come back to it. What a loss it was for him to be out for those games that he was with that injury that ended up being a bit longer than first thought. And again, he's just exactly what you need. I think at this level in terms of, again, both ways. And for me, one of the most impressive things is he just knows where that player in front of him is going to be. Once he finds his range, I think that was one of the key parts for last week at Birmingham. A few times when we've won that ball into Matty James, he's looked forward for Kiefer Moore and played it, and he just couldn't find his range last week. So that just meant the ball was just kept coming back at us. We had no real sustained attack or even just sustained possession in general. Whereas today he was picking his moments, and he did find his range today. Again, a few of those early ones, absolutely debatable, offside, very, very tight, and who knows, he's maybe a little bit unlucky not to be coming away with an assist or two today.
And a couple of penalty shouts. I was just going to ask you about those. Two from Lawal. How did you see those?
Yeah, well, the first one for me is whether he's inside the box or not, it's irrelevant.
It looked a foul.
He's ahead of him, and Lamal is pushing him with his shoulder in his back, and so he's going to go down. For me, that's either a free kick or a penalty. The second one, he's level with him, so he's able to just ease him out the way of the ball and let it go through to the keeper. That's more, I'm okay with that. And the one, he had to come off actually because of that challenge. But the first one for me, it's definitely a free kick.
I thought it looked a free kick on the edge of the box.
Yeah.
I guess though as well, was he last man? So if you give the free kick, is that red card?
Is it. Yeah, and the ref's got to make a decision
very early in the game. Yeah, I thought if that had been 85 minutes.
On that.
We'll leave that one for next week. So Mia, straight back at it then. Oxford on Tuesday. We have tended to see Phil make circa 3 to 4 changes match to match. Now for this one, having got it right today and with a quick turnaround, what would your view be?
I think he'll be tempted to stick. I think
I do.
He was in a position today where he could change, at 60, 65, 70. I'm not sure when it was the substitutions were made. I think we were looking at Windass thinking, if he gets credited that first one, he's on a hat-trick here, he'll be desperate to probably stay on. But, protect him actually. Tuesday's massive, as we know. And Oxford, I just think this is the hardest one in the running. I said it at the top of the show. I think that's the one where, if you go there and beat them, a team who are just absolutely fighting for their lives, we're not quite sure what's happening with West Brom, if they're going to get any point deductions.
Possible points deduction,
so there's still a massive chance they know that, and for me that's much more of a difficult game than a Borough or a Coventry, because I look at that Oxford United team, and obviously I haven't seen them today in that loss against Derby, but it just looks like they are together. They've got that bit of bite. They're playing for contracts, they're playing for their sort of futures, whereas you spin it over, you look at that Leicester team. I mean, I've never seen a team look like they hated each other so much, and that's the difference. You want to have that togetherness, you want to have those leaders, whether it's a Cam Brannigan or whoever, and they still have quality. I know they are where they are, but they still have quality in that team, and they can hurt you, and it'll be some atmosphere, I would expect, on Tuesday night.
You just hope, Andy, that disparate group at Leicester can come together on Tuesday and perhaps hold Hull to a draw, because that's you have to keep looking round now and getting to the run-in on who the opposition are facing when you're competing specifically for one space. But it needs a big performance from a Wrexham perspective from Leicester against Hull on Tuesday.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we'll keeping one eye on that, but like Mia says, I think it's more important that we look after ourselves and we go to Oxford and we produce an away performance that we've seen pretty much majority of this season. We've been good away from home. It's been here that we've had some slightly more problems, and so go there, same attitude, same thinking. I would have thought he'd go same team. It's definitely the same back three, definitely Wardy in goal. 2 wing backs will be the same. 2 sitters. I suppose it's just how Smith is. I suppose
O'Brien for Rathbone possibly for
I
freshness.
Doubt it. Not off Ollie. I think Smith with his ankle when he's hobbled off there, maybe that's the only one that now would sit as a possibility. But I would just throw him out again and go and do the same.
we will see on Tuesday. Let's have a little look at today's results then. The lunchtime kickoffs, it finished Derby 1, Oxford 0. So Derby keeping the pressure up on Wrexham and Hull for that final playoff spot. Oxford, of course, mired in the relegation trouble. Millwall 2, QPR 0 was another lunchtime kickoff today. Portsmouth beating Leicester. Fair play to John Massinio's side. They have really started to accelerate away. 3 consecutive victories at just the right time. They are virtually safe now. Bristol City 2, Norwich 4. Norwich have improved a lot in the second half of the season, as we were saying with Andy Amir pre-kick-off, and they play both of Wrexham's rivals for that 6th spot in the run-in. Hull and Birmingham 1-1. We've been discussing that. West Brom winning at Preston, which is a big win for the Baggies. As Mia was saying, there is some question mark as to whether West Brom are going to have a points deduction. If so, how many points, and will it happen this season? So it's all slightly unsatisfactory at the moment with the lack of clarity on that one. But West Brom, all they can do is respond on the pitch. They've definitely done that today with that 2-0 win at Deepdale. Sheffield Wednesday picking up a point against Charlton, who are starting to slip towards the relegation places. It is often the case, isn't it, that a team that have been out of the relegation picture all season suddenly starts sliding in the last few weeks. Southampton coming back from trailing to win 2-1 at Swansea. The juggernaut continues to roll under Tonde Eckert. So Southampton's bid for a second place spot and automatic promotion remains very much on the radar. Sheffield United winning at Watford, and we know what happened here. Let's have a look then at the table to see how that leaves matters in the Sky Bet Championship. With 3 rounds to go for virtually all of the teams. There's a couple who've got extra games in hand, Ipswich and Middlesbrough amongst them. At the top of the table, we'll talk Coventry in just a second with one of their former players who happens to be about a metre away from me. Millwall back up into second because Ipswich play tomorrow, so that might be temporary for Alex Neil's side. Southampton up to 4th. Look at that run continuing. But perhaps most interestingly of all, Wrexham just 2 points off that hallowed 6th spot. 2 points behind Hull, 9 left to gather potentially. If Wrexham can finish win-win-win and take 76, will that be enough? I think it probably will be. We can look at that in a few weeks and see if that was true or not. But Wrexham right in that conversation, as are Derby County. They're not out of it yet. From Norwich downwards, there's no real opportunity of the playoffs. Let's have a look at the bottom of the table, because these teams are going to feature very heavily in the remaining matches in terms of deciding matters at both ends of the table. Oxford United, where Wrexham head on Tuesday night, still in that 3rd to bottom place. Blackburn Rovers with a 5-point gap, although Oxford do have a game in hand on Michael O'Neill's side. They're on 49. West Brom and then Charlton, and I think Portsmouth are pretty much safe there on 51 points. Normally 50 points is seen as a rule of thumb as enough to survive, so I think John Massinio's side are pretty much there. But Andy, that's going to be a fascinating end to the season at both ends of the table, and at the top end, of course, the one thing that's not still up for grabs is the promotion position taken by your former club Coventry. What an outstanding season they've had under Frank Lampard.
Yeah, and what a game last night, because to be able to take 7,000 of your fans to an away trip up that M6 was, you know, we've known when we played them in the cup, we took 5,000, didn't we? And
filled the Darwin end.
Yeah, a huge end behind the goal, and to be able to get that goal right at the end in front of your fans as well, to take the point that you need to get up. They've been a fantastic all season. You know, the team have been absolutely exceptional. Frank Lampard, since he's been in there, has been a breath of fresh air to the place. The chairman that took over has put his money where his mouth is, to be fair to him. But for me, the fans have been through the mill. Like this place, you know, moving to Northampton, playing games there, moving to Birmingham, playing all over the place. Not
down to League Two.
Yeah, going down. Mark Robbins here, who's with Stoke now, he had a huge part in getting them back to some sort of parity in the leagues, and then Frank Lampard is just able to take that on and take it in. I'm made up for the fans. There's so many of them that I know, and it's just a brilliant feeling to see him back in the Prem.
And it's interesting, Mia, because in January, Coventry had a really bad run, didn't they? Actually lost the leadership of the league for a little bit to Middlesbrough, then beat Middlesbrough, and I think they've won 8 of their last 13. So they had their wobble, but they had it early enough to reset and then do it with a couple of rounds to spare.
Yeah, and they had such a good start to the season. That gave them such a platform to allow them to have that bit of a wobble, which, you know, I think is always going to come at this level in the Championship. It's so, you know, so often we see that happen to teams, whether they're going for title, the playoff spots, relegation, whatever. And, you know, fair dues to Frank Lampard, because yet again he's done a brilliant job. I think as well, you know, listening to the chairman last night say they made the decision in January that they were going to go for it. You know, they didn't see a better opportunity than this, and I think that's something that if you're a Middlesbrough fan, if maybe you're a Millwall fan, you're listening to that going, oh, have we missed our opportunity in that sense? And, you know, as Andy says, so thrilled. I mean, it was great scenes. I watched the end of it last night, and, you know, listening, you know, to the fans, how emotional they were in what's been too long since they've been in the Premier League. You know, they deserve to be there, and yeah, exciting now, and who knows, maybe we'll join them.
That point about the January transfer window opportunity, Angela Smith, who joined us pre-match, Mia, when I was chatting to her yesterday about Stoke's year after year in the Championship, she said 1 year under Gary Rowett, he spent 59 million in the transfer window and still couldn't finish top half. So it's always an easy thing to say, isn't it? To think, well, if you go big in the transfer window, you'll get the return. But there's no guarantee of it. Absolutely not. It's that risk reward. I think, you know, that maybe will be a few questions that will be asked of Wrexham come the end of the season, dependent on what happens in terms of, you know, obviously we brought players in, but did we necessarily spend as big as we could have? You know, was there more players available that we could have got hold of? These are the questions you just never really know, and it is that risk, you know, especially with PSR now and everything that comes along with that. But also on Coventry, you know, a team going up that hasn't had parachute payments, that to me is another huge thing that I'm looking at going, you know, fair play, because it's become such a regular thing. I know Leeds did it a few years ago and Ipswich did it without that, but it has become a bit of an anomaly. Absolutely, it can be done, and it just proves how, you know, amazing, how entertaining that the Championship is. Let's have a final look at the statistical breakdown of today's game then between Wrexham and Stoke before we close here on Matchday Live and see how all the stats broke from an afternoon in which Wrexham got back to winning ways with a very solid 2-0 win. They shaded possession 53% to 47, had more shots and 4 of those on target, all of those coming in the first half. Stoke not mustering a shot on target all afternoon. That was the statistic that Wrexham didn't want to look at after Birmingham last Sunday, but it's the one that Stoke fans have to face today. No clear-cut chances, and I think that was evident through the game. 6 corners to Stoke, although none of those really posed a significant threat to Danny Ward in goal. Let's have a look at the defensive stats. A very solid effort from Wrexham's back three. Hyam on the right, Scar in the middle and Doyle on the left today. And the aerial duels marginally nudged by Stoke City. Wrexham having to make the most clearances, but ultimately Stoke's threat wasn't really significant enough across the game, and Wrexham seeing this one out 2-0 and breathing fresh hope into their playoff push. Onwards to Tuesday then. Oxford, a 3-sided ground. Don't see too many of those apart from here. So there's a home from home to start with. Was it a ground you ever played on, Andy? Well, it's still at the Manor in your era.
I did play, yes. No, I played there and I scored there as well for Wrexham, I think.
Did you?
Or was it Blackpool? I don't know.
Because we came up against
scored there anyway.
National League days. We had a couple of tussles with Oxford. Right. I remember. Yeah.
Maybe it was Blackpool. I don't know. But anyway, I scored there. But yeah, that is the coldest place I've ever commentated from. It was ridiculously cold the last time I went down there to do Blackpool, one of their games. So hoping for a warmer one on Tuesday.
Hope it warms up for you. Well, Andy, Mia, good luck on Tuesday. Fingers crossed, and here's hoping. Mia, good luck tonight with the women's presentation night. Have a good one. Looking forward to hearing how it goes. It's been a good day so far for Wrexham. A solid 2-0 victory over the Potters. In recent weeks, Wrexham have struggled to hit their straps to some of the levels that they have seen earlier in this season. But today, they were able to unlock the Stoke back line with 2 goals in the space of a minute in the first half from Thomason and from Windass. It's been a little bit tricky in the last couple of weeks. Spirits have started to drop a little bit in and around the Wrexham fans, but I think you could safely say that with the sun out and with 3 points safely banked, the Wrexham armies are leading all of us here at the racecourse, and 1 or 2 slightly dodgy microphones. Diolch am wylio. Good night.